As we already looked at in the previous unit, we all respond differently to stresses placed on our bodies. Some of them are genetic and we can't do anything to control it. Other things are within our control. We'll look at 6 factors that influence strength in this video. In the last video of this unit, we'll discuss more about the specificity in training and how the progressive overload principles are used to utilize to achieve our strength goals. We'll look more in depth about the neural stimulation in improving muscular strength. We've already looked at the muscle fiber types and muscle lengths and their role in achieving strength. We'll also look at the influence that hormones have in our body to influence strength and how genetics shape our strength as well. Have you ever lifted a gallon of milk thinking it was totally full, but only when you went to lift it, you found out it was only about a quarter full? If you have, your body neurologically activated the muscles to lift 8 pounds. And if the resistance was only 2 pounds, chances are you lifted that gallon higher and faster than you needed to. Neural activation of muscle fiber influences strength. The heavier the object you lift, the more muscle fibers are signaled and stimulated to lift it. Lifting weights stimulates the intervention of muscles. Here's an actual stained slide showing the neuromuscular junction, the physical connection between your brain and your muscles. Type 2B muscle fibers have deeper, more innervation than type 1 or type 2A muscle fibers. Therefore, since type 2B muscle fibers have more nerve terminals in the muscle fiber, they're able to contract faster and more powerfully. The ratio of type 2B muscle fibers and type 1 is genetic. However, through training, we can improve the strength and functioning of these muscles. As we already mentioned, the ratio of type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers is genetically determined. However, type 2A muscle fibers are transitional in nature, and through training we can adapt to the demands placed on them. We can see groups of more white muscle fiber, or type 2B, and fewer groups of red muscle fiber, or type 1 muscle fiber. And we see a lot of the transitional type 2A muscle fibers. This sample of muscle tissue is very well adapted to produce high strength. Again, here's a review from the previous unit highlighting the differences between the muscle fiber types. And we already discussed that longer muscles have more potential to generate strength and power than do short muscles. Muscle length is also genetic. However, through specificity and training, we can improve the performance of the muscles, no matter which type we have. In addition to genetics, neural stimulation, and muscle types, hormones influence the muscle growth and activity, and therefore strength. Hormones communicate, activate, and regulate with various receptor sites throughout the body. Hormones are the active member of the endocrine system, which is controlled by the pituitary gland. Hormones communicate to the brain if we feel hungry or full, or if muscles break down from a workout and need to be repaired. The activation of glucose and amino acids to build tissue is called anabolism or anabolic, which means tissue growth. Strength training stimulates anabolic hormones to increase muscle and bone, as well as increasing red blood cell count, mitochondria, and blood vessels, and heart functioning. Again, all these things contribute to an improved stroke volume. Catabolic activity is the breaking down of tissue. When we are sedentary, the reversibility fitness principle comes into play, and we can lose our fitness gains and muscle mass in a short amount of time. Anabolic hormones build up the body. The primary anabolic hormone is HGH, or human growth hormone. It promotes cell division, protein synthesis, and increasing our glycogen reserves in our muscles. These things improve our metabolism enzymes, and we're also able to utilize fat for energy more efficiently. Both men and women have testosterone and estrogen. However, the ratios are a little different, and how they express themselves, therefore, is different. Testosterone is a key for maintaining and building muscle. Women have about 10 to 30 times less testosterone than men. Again, both men and women have estrogen, and estrogen is very important for maintaining bone health and growth. Insulin helps pull sugar from our blood into our muscles. It also, if there's too much glucose, it changes that sugar and changes it into fat. The primary hormones that break down tissue, or they're catabolic in nature, is cortisol. Cortisol is often associated with the stress hormone. This can actually break down proteins for energy to spare sugar. Glucagon is the opposite of insulin. When we're hungry, it's released. The pancreas releases glucagon, which signals muscle proteins to break down to create energy. The body tries to preserve its glycogen stores because they are primarily for immediate needs. We want to avoid catabolic hormones by managing stress and eating a few hundred calories every 4 hours or so. To activate the anabolic hormones that are naturally occurring in our body, we must think about exercise as taking them in doses, like taking doses for medicine. We'll talk more about the specific doses later. The high-intensity interval training stimulates the release of these metabolic adaptating hormones more than moderate intensity level activity. Working a muscle to volitional fatigue also stimulates the anabolic hormones. Volitional fatigue is when you do enough reps with the appropriate weight to the point where your muscle can't fully contract. This is called pumping out the muscle or repping it out. The previous unit also mentioned that the eccentric muscle contractions can stimulate the anabolic hormones.